I'm Joanna Small, your Public Information Officer for the Wheat Ridge Police Department. It's Friday, March 10th, and this is your WRPD Video Week in Review. Here's a summary of some of the most notable incidents your WRPD patrol officers responded to over this past week or so. Overnight on March 10th, officers spotted a vehicle in the intersection of 44th Avenue and Kipling that appeared to have a driver asleep behind the wheel. Now, the vehicle was still in drive and the driver was breathing, but he seemed to be in some kind of medical distress. Officers attempted to wake him up by banging on the windows to no avail, so one of our officers breached the window using his ASP. The driver woke up and told officers he suffers from seizures and believed he may have had one. Fortunately, he was able to receive medical attention from our Arvada fire personnel. On March 9th, officers responded to the TA truck stop off I-70 and Ward Road for a truck fire in which the cab was entirely engulfed in flames. Now, when we got there, we were relieved to learn that no one was inside the truck at the time of that fire. Our Arvada firefighters put out the flames and will be investigating the cause. On March 8th, officers were called to the 10,000 block of West 49th Avenue for reports that employees caught a suspect attempting to break into vehicles in the parking lot. They surrounded the suspect and they kept him inside one of the vehicles he was trying to steal until our officers arrived on that scene. Once identifying the man, officers also learned he is a suspect in another motor vehicle theft recovery. Originally, the owner of the vehicle spotted his stolen vehicle and chased it until dispatchers encouraged him to stop. On March 7th, an observant WRPD officer located a vehicle in the back of a building in the 7600 block of West 41st Avenue. Two people ran from that vehicle, which we learned was stolen, and the driver locked himself inside the building. He dropped his ID card in the hallway, though, and was tracked to an upstairs bathroom where he appeared to have climbed up into the ceiling tiles. Officers also located a transient encampment in the building with some of his personal property. Now, because we know his identity, he will be arrested upon contact. Also on March 7th, officers were dispatched to a veterinary hospital in the 3600 block of Kipling for reports of a burglary. When we arrived, we immediately noticed damage to the front interior doors. They appeared to have been pried open and forced inward. A drawer in the lobby was also pried, and cabinets inside some of the rooms had been opened. Cash, as well as some medications, appeared to be missing. Two males are seen on surveillance video committing the crime. Both are wearing light, solid-colored hoodies to obscure their identities, and at least one of the suspects is armed with a pry bar. If you have any information about this crime or the people believed to be responsible, please reach out to our investigative team at the number that's listed there on your screen. Similarly, that same shift of officers responded to another burglary in the 3700 block of Kipling, in which several offices inside a building had been broken into, with many of the filing cabinets being rifled through. A toolbox was also discovered left behind outside the building. The metal lockbox containing medications from the previous burglary we just mentioned was found on the sidewalk in the parking lot of this second burglary scene. Again, officers were able to access surveillance footage. In some of the video clips, the name Pete or Peter can be heard. And again, if you believe you have any information about this incident or the men who are in these video clips, please call the number that's listed on your screen. On March 6th, officers contacted a trespassing suspect in the lobby of a business in the 6300 block of West 38th Avenue. He admitted he had a warrant for what's called POW, or possession of a weapon by a previous offender, but when officers asked if he had a gun now, he took off running. After a foot chase, he was eventually located in a backyard and taken into custody. The suspect told officers he ditched the gun during the chase, and we were able to locate it in a bush. He had methamphetamine and fentanyl on his person, as well as 3 active arrest warrants. He was jailed on the warrants and now faces additional charges for POW, drugs, and obstruction. On March 5th, a neighbor in the 4400 block of Teller called 911 to report she was hearing footsteps inside an apartment that was supposed to be vacant. When we responded, we did discover 2 people inside the unit. Both of the suspects were cited for trespassing. One was additionally issued a summons for possession of a controlled substance, and the other was cited for having drug paraphernalia on his person. On March 4th, a neighbor's Ring camera picked up a vehicle driving through the neighborhood, and 3 shots were heard coming from that vehicle. Officers were able to locate the suspect vehicle in question as the driver was walking away from it. He was placed into custody, and 3 shell casings were recovered, as well as the recovery of a handgun from inside the vehicle. A gunshot residue test was performed on the suspect, who was jailed on a warrant. He is now facing new charges for illegal discharge of a firearm. That same shift of officers also responded to an aggravated robbery at the subway in the 4900 block of Kipling. A suspect entered the restaurant, pointed a handgun at the clerk, and demanded money from the cash register. He fled in a vehicle with a very small amount of money on him. There is surveillance video of this incident. The suspect is described as a black male in his 40s or 50s, wearing a hunting mask around his head, with a black windbreaker jacket, black shirt, khaki pants, tan cargo boots, and using a cane. The employee said he walked with a slight limp and had a bruise under his right eye. He left in a white Subaru SUV north on Kipling. If you have any information about what occurred, please call the number that's listed there on your screen. On March 3rd, a bus, which the single occupant also lived in, caught fire at West 44th Avenue in Youngfield. The driver and his dog were able to get out safely, and Fairmount Fire responded to extinguish the fire. Unfortunately, the bus was a total loss, but fortunately, no one was injured. There were also a few incidents we posted about on social media this week by themselves. Overnight last Saturday into Sunday, a suspected drunk driver crashed into a power pole in the 8900 block of 32nd Avenue, causing houses in the area to lose power. The passenger sustained serious bodily injuries, but is fortunately expected to be okay. And then finally, you likely saw this video. This is the inside of the tunnel that runs underneath the Colorado 58 flyover at I-70. An observant WRPD Community Services officer spotted an individual climbing inside it last month and discovered it full of trash, human waste, and all kinds of items. CDOT immediately completed a massive cleanout, collecting a total of 120 cubic yards of junk. They worked on that all week while officers stood by and finished up yesterday. In between your calls for service, officers also conducted emphasis patrols in areas where we know criminal activity tends to be more of a problem, contacting people for lesser offenses like trespassing, which then often leads to arrests for outstanding warrants, drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia. In addition to the ones mentioned in this week in review, officers also recovered another 5 stolen vehicles. That's all for now. We'll see you next time. And remember, if you need us, we are always just minutes away.